What is up, guys, and welcome back to OWL by the Numbers, your one-stop spot for all things Fantasy Overwatch League. I am your host, Tumbly Drunk, and tonight on episode 31, we're gonna recap last week's Fantasy League games, reflect on a week that was in what was a crazy first week of the Overwatch League playoffs, and of course we gotta make our picks for this week's playoff games, as this week we find out which two teams are going to advance to compete in the grand finals being held in Philadelphia this year. But before we can jump into the agenda for tonight and introduce you to my co-host, let me just quickly take a moment to thank everyone who is joining us tonight on Twitch for our live show, and of course thank all of our repeat listeners out there. So joining me tonight, as always, are two of my co-hosts. First up, we have Ed and R. Ed, how's the past week been treating you, man?
It's been going good. See, me and Ramses have this thing now before the show starts while you're doing the introductions. We want to get you to crack.
See, that's the thing. It's on the other monitor, and I can't see the entirety of the window, so it's kind of a moot point.
Dang it. Well, we will still continue. We will continue. My past week's been really good. You know, it's the start of the football season, so obviously it went very well. Watched a lot of that, played a lot of fantasy. Yeah, I faced Mel, and I will be the first to admit, Mel smoked me. Christian McCaffrey, whew, that guy did some damage.
Yep.
So, but, you know, we had all of that. I didn't place any money on any games this week because I will not bet on week one games. It's just a rule I have. Like, I don't bet on games that I have the least amount of information on. I tried to play Classic WoW, but some a-holes were DDoSing Blizzard the entire time. So the world servers were down, and then they DDoSed Twitch. And I'm like, I literally hate you. I saw it somewhere on Reddit, whether it's real or not, there was a $50,000 bounty to whoever did the DDoS. So vigilante justice on Reddit, we got that going for us.
I totally trust Reddit to carry out a fair and non-biased
if
judgment.
there was ever one trustworthy source for money, it's Reddit.
Yeah.
Also, Nigerian princes. They are on the same level. But we're getting closer and closer to, you know, BlizzCon coming. Like, they sent out the art for, like, the official poster art, you know, for BlizzCon. And so it's like, we'll start slowly hearing more information, culminating with the epic band that no one will go see. Unless it's the Killers. Then I'll go see them. Because that's my official prediction, the Killers.
I mean, who's played BlizzCon in the past? Like Blink-182's played BlizzCon. Metallica's played BlizzCon.
Weird Al.
Red Hot Chili Peppers, Ozzy Osbourne.
Red Hot Chili Peppers. So it's not out of the realm. It's not like the Killers are a huge name over them.
So we're gonna go from the county fair band that was Train to someone to someone I've seen at Six Flags in the Killers.
Look, I'm just saying, at least the Killers don't have a whole song where he talks about how his heart's gonna beat outside of his untrimmed chest. Ew. Yeah. Sorry.
And last year that we had the county fair band Train, but there were also other performances which they've never done.
Train is 100% the county fair band.
It is.
My county fair like here too.
It's county fair. Like Train is county fair band, same as REO Speedwagon.
Fog Hat is a county fair band.
Yeah. Every Journey used to be until Glee came around and made one of their songs popular again, and then it's like, we're moving up to the state fair. Woo! So, all right, that's our first tangent of the night. I'll shoot it back to you, Totem.
Well, no, I'm shooting it over to Ramses. Ramses, how's this past week been treating you?
Pretty good. Your boy's 23 finally, so I get to hear Blink-182 puns for like the rest of the year.
Seriously, are you that young?
No, it's just I was like, oh, I'm 23, and like people race to try and sing the "What's My Age Again" lyric at me, and I'm like, I know, I was 14 one time, like I know, I've heard the song before. Pretty good. I didn't get any of my fantasy stuff in Overwatch League done just because school started and I'm running all around doing capstone stuff and thesis stuff. But fantasy, at least football wise, did go pretty well. I managed to beat Misfit after he bragged on Twitter how he was beating me by 4 points because his kicker had played and none of my players had played yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty good. I'm happy to be back. It's a good week.
Absolutely, and in regards to me, like I did a little bit of everything. Obviously, we had NFL kickoff, and my auto-drafted team put up the highest point total this past week in our podcast league, which was interesting.
Well, okay, auto draft asterisk. All right, you did curate a lineup in there
did.
you wanted to draft,
but he drafted the one Chiefs player. Bob didn't.
dude.
In Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, see, Bob just chose wrong. That's all it is.
Uh-huh. So, Sammy
Although
Watkins.
technically Fowl also had Hill, so that was to my benefit as well.
Well, that did well too. I think it should be the asterisk.
Yeah, I mean either way, I was gonna win that probably. But like in regards to Overwatch League pick'ems, pretty 50-50 this week because we did have some pretty big upsets. But I only managed to play daily fantasy on Thursday and Saturday. So with that being said, Ramses, I know you didn't really have a chance to jump into fantasy this past week. Ed, did you play any games this past week for Fantasy OWL?
Yeah, actually, I played every day because I couldn't log on and play Classic Warcraft because some a-hole was DDoSing. But, it's a lot of people had basically very similar rosters with only 4 teams playing each day. So with that said, I actually did quite well. On Thursday I took third in like the main one. Thursday I took third, Friday 6th, Saturday and Sunday I took second on both days. So, it was a very successful fantasy week. With a smaller player base, I will say that, but it's just, it's one of those things where I just went in going, all right, who's playing Sigma? Like,
see, I tried that, and then I predicted wrong on some of the teams.
Yeah, I only went with surefire, so I think on Thursday I went Marvel and Gouchway. I'm like, okay. I got 2 Sigmas here.
And then only one of them played Sigma.
Mm-hmm.
True. But, I'll still take it. And then I think Friday I went Jester and Choyobin. And then after that you had, a more clear-cut type of situation on who is going to play Sigma and whatnot. And more importantly, who is going to be playing Moira? Because the Moira is the one doing the real work out there, fantasy-wise. So, Jae Hong, so subject, was awesome fantasy-wise because he was going to play Moira like the majority of the time.
And he's also not retiring.
No, baby.
I did love that. I loved that. You saw the tweet from Nero being like, "If Jay Hong's retiring, I'm retiring," and his response was in Korean like, "I'm not retiring. Like, leave me alone."
Yeah, my Saturday team, I didn't play one single person from the Spitfire Shock, and I took second.
Yeah,
I was just like,
I just went all in on Spark Dynasty on Saturday, and that worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I'm assuming you went with Bebe.
Yeah, in regards to the DPS, I went with Godsby, who's actually been putting up monster points. I think that was the only variation I had over the people that were right below me, because a lot of people kind of went all in on that specific match, but the Godsby pick,
I was second. You took first, I was second.
The Godsby pick secured the win for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we had identical lineups. So you took first, I took second. Mm-hmm. And the only switch was you went Rhea, I went Gouchway. That was it. So, but Bebe put up an ungodly amount. I mean, he had over, 328 points. Now, granted, it's a lot of maps. It's more maps, but no one else had been scoring over 300.
Right.
So yeah, Moira for life.
Yeah,
Now we got
my Discord has been like randomly blinking.
same here.
Yeah.
Weird. Whatever. But anyways, so it's worth noting that with the daily fantasy OWL, it's a lot easier to do these contests when we know what the matches are. So, you know, I know with the lower bracket this week, are probably going to be the games that we'll see posted. Last time I checked earlier today, there wasn't anything up as of yet, but I would expect to see that posted here fairly soon, probably within the next day or so. But in regards to me, like, Thursday and Saturday were the only 2 days that I played daily this week, and Thursday was pretty average. I finished in 6th place overall with 1161.5 points. And in this case, it was Bebe leading a team on my side with points with around, 250, which was just okay. But I have to say, like, the Spark have really been a lot better than we were anticipating, both from a fantasy perspective, but also as just a team across the board. They, and of course, we'll get into the games, but they had a really lengthy series against the Gliders, which was very close tooth and nail, and then, they just kind of dunked on the Dynasty to send them packing. It was really Bozzy who was the final nail in the coffin for Seoul, unfortunately, so they are down and out, but definitely keep an eye on Fantasy OWL. We should have games posted here soon, but let's talk about the playoffs week 1, because there was a lot going on. There were a lot of matches this past week. So we had like 4 matches for the upper bracket. No, it was like 5 or 6 total for the upper bracket. Then we had a couple in the lower bracket. So Ramses, why don't we do like a quick recap of the overall results, and then we can kind of like branch off and talk about the matches themselves a little bit more in depth after that.
For sure. So just going kind of day by day. Number 1, Vancouver Titans versus Seoul Dynasty. Vancouver winning 4-2. Expected, to be honest. Like, Vancouver looked really, really good. I think better than we thought. Maybe not better than we thought, but I guess they've adapted to the meta very, very well. I also was laughing because, like, last week we were all like, oh, like, who's going to play Doomfist? Like, who's going to play the Doomfist? And then we're like, oh, it's Haxel, of course. Like, once the game started, it's like, oh, how dumb are we for not realizing? But Vancouver beat Seoul 4-2. Totem, in the battle between your 2 dads, how did it feel to see one just destroy the other?
I wouldn't say destroyed as much in this one than the Spark game. I think the Dynasty actually played the Titans pretty well in this series. But that being said, it's always very saddening to see my dads fight. But I have to say, like, just in the first day, I was like, I don't even know what to do right now, because I own jerseys for all of the teams that were playing in the first day. So I was just slinging jerseys on both of my shoulders every time the next game would pop on. Like, I couldn't choose.
Yeah, it was actually a lot closer matchup than at the beginning than I thought it would be. Because, like, I mean, honestly, at one point it was 2-1 Dynasty over Vancouver. I'm like, no, we're not going to get this kind of chaos happening. And then, Vancouver came back and won the next 3.
Well, the chaos would come, just not in that
It
match.
would come. But, I mean, if Seoul would have beaten Vancouver on top of everything else that happened, whew, that could be some chaos right there.
I mean, we got similar results to that in a couple days from then, but LA Gladiators was the next game, playing the Hangzhou Spark, beating the Hangzhou 4-3. Definitely was. We had talked. This was probably going to be the most contested game going into the first round, and you could make an argument it was. It seemed like it was really going back and forth, map by map. I think Gladiators played Void at Sigma. Then we saw them put Hydration at Sigma. Like, a lot of different comps back and forth from these teams, a lot of different players. It's also, I'm happy that at least we still have one Chinese team still in the bracket. We started, I think, starting with all 4 just down to 1. So it was a pretty good game. LA really clutched it out.
Well, Hunter's going to be fighting for their life at this point. And I will say, like, the Gladiators across the board They've really brought a level of aggression that we haven't quite seen from some of these other teams, which is nice to see. But we have seen in these lengthier series teams being able to adapt to that playstyle, which we did see come into play in regards to that second round in the playoffs when the Gladiators went up against the Titans. But across the board, I know we were a little concerned about, like, okay, well, what's Hydration's role going to be? And honestly, like, I felt like he was better on the Sigma, but he probably had a bigger impact when he's actually playing Projectile as opposed to switching things up and swapping roles.
Yeah, I will say this map, and everyone has been kind of praising the Gladiators, for coming out with the win on this one, and I think this was more on the Spark for not winning this. I did not like their Sigma play at all. You know, when you look at it, who's the top damage dealer now? In every matchup you see, who's the top damage dealer? It's whoever plays Sigma.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's be real. Every single map, except for one map where it was a Dora as a top damage dealer, it was Godspeed. So their Sigma wasn't even their top damage dealer in a meta where Sigma's the top damage dealer on every team. And that's like a striking stat that is screaming their Sigma play needs to step up. It just does, because Sigma is so vital to the teams right now. So Rhea, they could definitely work on it. I am a Spark fan, and I think their tank line needs to kind of step it up because Godsby and Adora did look pretty good, and nobody is going to argue with Bebe and IDK on the support line as being one of the top support lines in the Overwatch. Right now, it's Gushway and Rhea that's kind of holding them back, in my opinion. So hopefully they step it up and crush it this week. Crush them.
Well, I mean, they have a decent matchup next week, but third game, New York Excelsior beating London Spitfire 4-1. Kind of felt like this was just the beginning of the end for London, where we started to see New York actually looking really, really smooth and really strong. And I'll be honest, I have been one of the people who has called them chokers for the past year, but they've really looked good. They've looked really well coordinated. They've adapted to the meta very well, which is a very weird thing for New York to actually do.
That's a very not New York thing. But Ramses, I just have one question for you. Was Birdray not playing because he was too busy packing London's bags?
I mean, I don't know. The last time they packed their bags prematurely, they made it to grand finals. So
I'm just saying they probably were thinking that they were going to do the same thing. They were planning ahead, and then they didn't win.
It looks a lot like, and I don't know, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong. It felt very much like. Shut up. It felt very much like when they were whereas New York had a lot of set plays, had a lot of strategy going into it. It kind of felt like London was just in a oh crap, okay, well, we have to outskill them to be able to win this.
Yeah, New York and the off-kilter Bastion reliance. Like, what the heck? We've seen an absurd amount of Bastion, and it is worth noting, like, we thought, like, Flower's gonna be the one playing Projectile on this team. That has not been the case. They did bring SBB back into the fold, the old faithful captain on the team. So things not quite panned out as we expected, but I was happy to see that we did get that redemption arc against Atlanta. Mind you, it wasn't where we thought it would happen in regards to the overall bracket, but it's good to see New York actually performing in the playoffs, and, honestly, right now, with the way that they've been playing, I think they're going to make it to the grand finals. Whether or not they win it remains to be seen, but this team is looking a lot better and a lot scarier than any one of us would have predicted, and, they're slowly starting to change that narrative that's kind of been written based off their prior performances.
Now, I'm cutting you off, Ramses.
No, I was gonna throw it to you because you look like you have something to say about it.
So here's the thing. Has New York look that good, or have they thrown such different things at people? They just don't know how to adapt to it. And you give it a week of scrims and practice, people are going to come in and be like, okay, we know to expect them to go attack bastion here, and we can play against that instead of like the surprise attack bastion. Because honestly, who the hell is expecting an attack bastion? No one.
Well,
it's like the tracer tucked in the garden.
If there was
Hanamura.
only another team who's been pulling the same sort of antics that also managed to win a Game 7 against the odds-on favorites to win the Grand Finals. Yeah, I'm thinking of Atlanta here. Yeah, they've been kind of doing the same thing that New York's been doing. It's worked out pretty well for them, too.
They are in the loser bracket.
The May Bastion is a good strat, it seems, no matter how much people complain about it. Yeah, Atlanta went 4-3 with the San Francisco Shock. I know everybody. Well, everybody wants to call it a C9. It is not a C9. You watch the clip. They sent Moth to touch point, and Gator hits him with a really, really smart, good accretion rock. Not to mention, like, they already have, like, they were even talking about, like, Atlanta's team had like almost no health between the six of them. Like if San Francisco had just turned around, or if they had managed to hold the point for like a second, San Francisco would have obliterated all of them.
Masa was there in position to go for the boop as well in the situation.
Excellent set play, great job. Gotta give him credit for it.
No.
And shut up, Ed. And also, like, I think you get even more worried because you unleashed the angry San Francisco Shock instead of just the normal team. Right now, like, this team can't afford to not be intense because they have to win every single game now to make it to finals.
It's crazy that this particular result in itself robbed us of any chance of seeing Shock Titans twice in the playoffs, which was honestly something a lot of us would have predicted. Probably for the upper finals and then into the grand finals as well. And, at this rate, we might only get to see that match once, so we're not going to get any sort of tiebreaker in regards to the season series, and we might not even get it at all based on, how New York's kind of been pulling through people, so who knows?
No. I still don't have faith.
Ed doesn't want to believe.
Ed doesn't have faith in anybody, dude.
I just can't, because the thing is New York has failed us so many times. I can't believe that, the hype that New York is for real for the 8th time. New York is super, super serious this time, and they're super duper going to be the top team. It's just, I can't believe it because they've just failed so many times.
What would it take to sway that opinion? Would it take them beating the Titans this next week?
Yeah.
If they beat the Titans, they're winning it all.
Yeah, and
100%.
I know a lot of people are, looking back at the last time that these two teams had played, and that series in particular was an absolute shit show. Let's be real. Like it was a clown fiesta game, but it was very entertaining. But it was basically like no one's gonna play any sort of defense, and we're just gonna throw whatever looks, and we'll see what does it. But man, it's so crazy. Just kind of like looking at everyone's brackets and seeing like everyone was really behind the Shock to make it all the way through. Probably meet up with the Titans in the upper finals, potentially win that puncher ticket to Philadelphia, and then you see the Shock getting dropped down to the losers bracket right from the get-go. And it's moments like this when it really heralds back to the whole discussion of, well, like, was this the right time to make any sort of major adjustments? And look at how exciting the format has been with double elimination. It's been absolutely intense. It's been crazy. And we have two of the Korean squads already home at this point, both of which had advanced from the play-in tournament. So it's interesting to see how the bracket has kind of evolved to having all of the top seeds in the right spots at this point, because we have the top seeds meeting in the upper finals when we have Titans and New York. then the higher seeds on the losers bracket are all in the same spot. So it's been kind of odd to see everything kind of pan out the way the seeding worked.
Well, and specifically, those teams getting kicked out would be the Seoul Dynasty losing 4-1, of course, losing to the Hangzhou Spark, and then the London Spitfire losing to the San Francisco Shock 4-0, which them losing to San Francisco wasn't surprising, but them getting 4-0'd definitely was. We know that London is a team that is extremely capable, but again, it just felt like they were really just kind of trying to outskill, trying to out-mechanic the other players, which if you're playing like the Outlaws or the Dallas Fuel, like okay, I can get that. But like if you're playing the San Francisco Shock or like the Vancouver Titans or New York, that's just not going to work for you.
I'm particularly shocked at the Shock. I will say this: in Crusty we trust.
In Crusty we trusty.
In Crusty we trusty. And I thought we were going to go towards a double hit scan meta, because that is what he built his World Cup team around. And we're not seeing that at all.
That's kind of what America built their World Cup team around too. Like,
America's World Cup team is crap. Let's just get that out of the way.
Hey, when we
place
win
in
one
the top
game
6, then come back to me.
I'm just saying, this is the third year in a row we've gotten put in the same block as South Korea. The third year in a row.
Well,
get good, America.
How can you improve if you don't face the best?
Yeah, get good, America.
Understandable, but like 3 years in a row.
Third time's the charm. No.
Please, Corey, carry for us. Please, Corey.
Well, carry what? Widowmaker? Nope.
Yeah. Hanzo?
Nope.
Yep.
Because we're not probably going to get a different meta in the World Cup than what we're seeing now.
Yeah, we're going to get Bastion May.
Bastion May, or you could even see, if you're going to go Doomfist, Reaper, you could see, like, maybe... You'd probably see Sinatra on the Doomfist, and I think probably Corey on the Reaper.
Mm-hmm.
And Corey's not carrying on Reaper.
But the thing I think is interesting with these World Cup teams is that, like, looking at Team USA, granted, we just haven't seen Space play Sigma at all, but, like, are we confident that, like, Space is going to be able to play Sigma? Are we confident?
We got Hydration on the team?
No, we didn't make it. Which, if we knew that this was going to be the prevailing meta, he probably would have.
Who's the third?
What?
KSF.
Yeah, it's KSF.
Oh, KSF. Whatever. They still suck.
But anyway, so the Shock came out. They just stomped the Spitfire, and we definitely got.
Yeah, speaking of sucking,
we got the angry Shock in this one after Moss shocked Pikachu face in that Atlanta series on Rialto.
Well, so going forward, I guess it bears to be thought about. For one, how much do London need to change? Because this is a team that we've seen, like, they have really good players, sure, but like they've butted heads with coaches before. Mm-hmm. There was drama apparently over the weekend that Birdering was refusing to play, which is why Guard got put in at the last second. And like, Guard, you tried your hardest, but like putting Guard in like the day of is not going to do anybody any favors. I think you definitely have really good players, and then you have some with kind of a handicap. Like, Jester's a really good Orisa and a really good Winston. His Rhine definitely leaves something to be desired.
The unfortunate part about this is, after the play-in tournament, they went through Shanghai. Now, granted, we've kind of seen an evolution to the meta. And Shanghai were basically just running Pharah Doomfist, and we haven't really seen those two paired together throughout the playoffs. It's been a lot of Reaper Doomfist. And London really had struggled against the Pharah, but we're dealing with the Doomfist fairly well. So, if the situation was different, if Birdwing was still around, I don't 100% say like that would have made things different, but at least it would have played more to the strengths based off of how they played around the Doomfist in the play-in tournament. But, for London, it just guarantees we're going to get a new champion this year. So I am all for it, but definitely not the team I would have expected to go 0-2 to kick things off.
Well, the best part of it was they threw it back to Bedosian's quote from winning the championship last year, where he was like, "Yeah, I'll be honest. I thought it was going to be harder. Like, I hope next year we actually play like some better teams."
Well, they did. They faced San Francisco.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go with back to your earlier question, Ramses, about what do Spitfire do. I think they get rid of half their team.
Sign Carpe.
No. Yeah, I'm not putting Carpe and Profit on the same team. Like in a fantasy world that works, but in a realistic world, no, that's crap. Like that's not what you want. You don't want two heavy hitters on deep. Like you don't want two franchise faces on DPS. You need the Carpe EQO type of complement, because EQO is not the same level as Carpe. Obviously, you need someone just better than Birdring to like to go with Profit. I think you keep Profit and then the tank line, and get rid of everyone else. Maybe some of the backups stay to fill roster spots, but Nuss, Quartermain, Badoshin.
Badoshin, I think, deserves a chance to at least fight for the spot rather than getting cut.
See, here's the thing with Badoshin is like one thing we haven't we brought up, but it's the end of the 2-year cycle of most of the contracts. Is Badoshin worth the money that he's gonna require?
Well, we're going to hear a
You know
lot
what I mean?
about contracts towards the end of the month after the grand finals.
Yeah, I would say move on from it and try and rebuild around those three, because you brought up Gesture. He's a good Winston. He's a good Orisa. Name me one tank who's really good at every single main tank. Exactly. There's
Mono.
none. You're always gonna have
Mono.
Mono is one of the top 5 in Winston, Orisa, and Reinhardt.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet money on that.
But he's not even playing Orisa now.
Who do they have on Orisa then?
But they're not playing him on Orisa now.
Who do they have him playing then?
Sigma. Isn't he on Sigma?
No, Meko's on Sigma.
I thought that's who you just said.
No.
Oh God, I'm confused now.
But no, every like tank that he has played so far, Mono's been, I would say, a top 5. And granted, I think he is the exception to the rule because, like, realistically, we talk about like even with more of the mid-tier tanks, like Muma's a really good Winston and a really good Orisa. His Ryan's all right. Super's a really good Winston, really good Orisa. His Ryan is all right. Bumper's a really good Ryan. I haven't seen a lot of his Winston this year.
And he gets benched in the playoffs.
He got benched for Orisa. I'm just saying, you could do worse than Gesture on those two and being a serviceable Reinhardt.
Regardless, there's going to be a lot of players out there who are going to be on the chopping block, and we'll probably start to see a lot of LFT posts here within the next couple of weeks. But getting back to the brackets in regards to the upper half, we did have the Vancouver Titans defeating the LA Gladiators 4-2, and then we also saw New York get a little bit of redemption over their kryptonite of the Atlanta Reign, who beat them twice in the regular season. And Excelsior took that one 4-2. So at least I got that prediction right. Yes, it was on the wrong side of the bracket, but if you're New York in this situation, that particular win has to feel better than anything that they've done this year after losing to this team twice. They couldn't quite figure out Atlanta, and I will say for Atlanta, I am really happy to see some Symmetra strats actually working. They're one of the few teams that have been incorporating Symmetra and actually winning the maps in those situations. But this was just a series of two very adaptive teams, and New York just got the best of them in this case. And, we get the upper finals that everyone would have expected between Vancouver and New York.
Yeah. And hopefully this one's a better game than it was than the last time they met, because like you said, it was different metas, two teams that realistically probably weren't even practicing that same meta for the entire stage.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully it's a good one. Going forward into the next couple games, just to get, I guess, some pick'ems predictions, what you guys think is going to happen. Thursday we have Atlanta Reign versus the Hangzhou Spark for pretty much wrapping up the losers bracket on their side. Loser leaves town pretty much. Atlanta versus Hangzhou. Who are you guys feeling strong with?
I mean, I'm going Atlanta on this one. Atlanta did still look good. Yeah, they lost to New York, but I still think they look good. Gator was a nice surprise on being brought out. Like, it was one of the few teams that actually brought out the double main tank, which is something I think Totem, you and I talked about on Heroes Never Die last week. Is why aren't people bringing out double main tank if Sigma's technically a main tank according to Jeff Kaplan?
Right, yeah, the breakdown of who's actually been playing the Sigma on a team-to-team basis has been kind of all over the place.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going Atlanta. My heart says pick Spark, but I don't do pick'ems based on how I feel, based on knowledge.
I am fully backing the Spark, if only because their DPS has just been a running shot through people, and they just seem to be, the more that this team lingers around, the more they're powering up and the better that they've been looking. I will say Atlanta are just as good as we would have expected them to be, but I want to see the Spark move on, just because they've kind of been the team that everyone's been counting out throughout these playoffs, and I want to see them continue to do well as the sole survivor in regards to the Pacific in this case. Since all the other Chinese teams are out. And I have to say, like, Godsby has been just on an absolute tear. I know he's been in top 5 for a lot of the damage categories, which is kind of weird since he's not been the Doomfist or the carry on the team, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, it seems like Hangzhou has consistently been a team that, like, no one would disagree with you that they're a good team and that they deserve to make the playoffs, but I think the rest of the teams just have a little bit more hype behind them.
Mm-hmm.
That was something actually I'm pretty grateful for, is that all 8 of these playoff teams actually felt like nobody snuck in. Like, everybody, like, all these teams here have been, like, solid, good teams. London, yeah, but, like, London, you at least felt like it wasn't a surprise for London to make playoffs. All these teams have played well and, like, are performing at a high level.
Mm-hmm. I mean, London got in coming off of what a lot of people thought was one of the best matches in, Overwatch League history.
Well, it's weird. Like, everyone hyped the Dragons to be better than a lot of these top 6 teams, but then we're also not seeing the same meta, so how much can you really read into that claim to begin with,
Well, it makes you wonder if this might extend to teams that were good at GOATs, because, again, this is a meta that involves a lot of team coordination and a lot of, like, team ult management.
I mean, can we please call this meta what it is?
No.
It's
No.
Tosuck.
No.
It's Tosuck. Yes.
That's not gonna
It
stick.
is.
It's not gonna stick.
It's gonna stick. I'm gonna keep bringing it up.
Jeez. The other game that's coming up would be the LA Gladiators versus San Francisco Shock to round out the losers bracket. Another loser leaves town. So San Francisco, I think, is the heavy favorite. I would expect San Francisco to win, but LA has looked really, really clutch on a lot of fights. Barely scraped a point out to be able to win at the last second, or they've stalled for just long enough to come back and retake a point. And I think they're a team that's in a similar way to London. We know how high their skill ceiling is. However, I don't think that Roar and Void or Roar and Hydration are better than Smurf and Choi or Sinatra Choi or whatever lineup they decide the San Francisco Shockers had to run that day.
In some cases.
That's the best part, is they ran Super literally just so he could come out and make the post-match interview.
I'm just, the one part of the shock. Like I'm going with the shock on this one. I think the shock will win out. I'm not sold on Striker.
No, I agree. I would have
I mean,
expected them to do Rascal Architect still.
Sinatra, total sense. Looked like one of the best Doomfists in the league in the playoffs. Like he was very good. So Sinatra, permanent spot. I expected more Rascal Architect over. Okay, we're just gonna basically bring out Striker the entire time.
I mean,
Just to play Reaper.
Strikers looked kind of not as granted. None of those heroes are Tracer, but like Striker hasn't looked as great as he did last season.
To be fair though, a lot of the Reaper players have been trying to adjust because in the current meta, you're seeing a lot of flanks being set up, and you have other Reapers that are being a lot more aggressive with their approaches. So I feel like it's a balancing act in a lot of situations here. Some Reapers are looking pretty good, others look pretty lost in the shuffle. But it's really the Doomfist players that have been pulling the weight here.
You say Super on Reaper?
No, I want to see Super out there because I want to see them get back to their super aggressive playstyle. I want to see Super, and I'm not even saying Super on Sigma. I like Choi.
You don't want to bench their golden boy Choi?
Yes, I do not want to bench him. But how great would it be to get an aggressive Orisa being like, screw you guys, I'm coming at you with Fortify and my shield every 9 seconds. Deal with me while the Sigma and then Sinatra's on Doomfist are flanking you from the sides. I want that aggressiveness from
Ramses. It's almost like he's never played Orisa.
Man, it's almost... Ed, I'm just telling you, every time you shoot a shield forward as Orisa, nobody ever walks up. Granted, it's ranked, but like Orisa literally is the defensive tank. Like,
have you seen the shock?
That doesn't mean it works.
Legit, it worked for them during GOATs. I mean, Sinatra would.
Do you play Orisa in GOATs?
Sinatra played in front of Shields.
Do you play Orisa in GOATs?
Do you play Shields in GOATs?
You carry the shield in GOATs. You don't
barriers.
shoot it, and it's not sedentary.
So if you have a shield and your off tank is playing in front of the shields, how effective is that shield?
The shield in GOATs is not sedentary. You can move the shield with the character.
But if you're not moving it in front of the Zarya, it's still staying behind.
No, but you move the shield so many more times in GOATs. You can't just keep shield 3 seconds. Shield like you're Edward.
Are you saying that there's no way that they could make an aggressive Orisa?
You can do it. Believe me, I've played enough silver games to see aggressive Orisas. It's more that the utility isn't there.
Does anyone doubt that Super could find a way?
I mean, if we had a couple weeks, sure. They play in a couple days. It's not time to try that kind of strategy.
Well, at the end of the day, this is all a moot point since they don't trust his Orisa play to begin with, and that's why he's been getting benched for Smurf, just like he was throughout all of Stage 4. But, like, if we're talking about Sigma, I could see a situation where they do take the double main take approach and then have Super on the Sigma.
That makes sense.
But for me, on this particular match, I'm going to agree with both of you. The Shock should be able to take this. And Shock just have a way of beating the other California teams. I don't expect that to change regardless of it being the playoffs or not. Shock should take this. It's just a matter of how well they can adapt to the level of aggression from the Gladiators. So I feel like this is going to play a lot like the match with, the Titans, where they just kind of figure out the Gladiators. So I think this one's probably going to end 4-2, just like that prior series. But that would lead into the upper finals, which are going to be Friday night. Which would be the Vancouver Titans going up against the New York Excelsior. And I'll be honest, I've been so conflicted on this. Obviously, my heart says the Titans, but with the way that New York has been playing, I'm not going to be upset if New York has an upset. But, for me, I don't want to say, I would feel robbed if we don't get Titans versus Shock in the finals. It would feel weird if we don't actually get that match, but with the way that things have panned out, I'm expecting that to be the lower bracket finals. So I do have New York winning it. I think it will be a lengthy series. It's just a matter of the adaptability of the Titans, which they've proven to be pretty good, and whether or not, New York's kind of shenanigans are actually going to continue to pay off. But these teams have both been looking solid, and compared to the matches that we've had in the past between them, this one's probably going to be a lot closer to call.
We can only hope.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a lot closer. It's going to be probably the best matchup we get this weekend. Just to be honest. Because, I mean, maybe if we see Shock versus Vancouver in the loser finals on Sunday, maybe it has a shot to be the best. But I think the Titans in New York is going to be the best one. Whether we'll see Attack Bastion or not is yet to be seen. If Bumper comes out, who knows?
No.
Like, we don't know if Bumper will play. Probably not, but we just don't know. We know Haxel's going to be out there. And Twilight has really stepped it up a little.
Really stepped it up a little.
He has. I mean, how do you step it up a lot when you're an MVP player?
Wow.
He's risen to the challenge. You don't use Aurelians. I don't want to be the grammar Nazi. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you are being the grammar Nazi, and I hate you. It's okay. No, it's going to be a good matchup. We'll definitely see some good play out of them. But I still think the Titans take this one.
I gotta go Titans as well, just because I think realistically, Vancouver is going to be able to make New York feel shaky and feel uneasy. I think New York is definitely a team that gets in their own heads a lot, especially when stuff doesn't go the way they planned. And there is still time for them to choke, just because they had a good first round, which they played well. They played really well, but like there's still time for things to go wrong.
So, with the Shock getting knocked down to the lower bracket, who do you feel like out of all of the teams that benefits the most? Because obviously, if you're in the upper rounds, you're not having to worry about them until potentially the grand finals. Like, do you think that's to the Titans' strength in this case, knowing that they don't have to get through them twice? Or could that potentially benefit the Shock more, knowing that they would technically be facing the lower seeds at this point?
I think it's better for the Shock because they have to face lower seeds. I mean, we have two different metas going on from when they played them the last time to now. Mm-hmm. They haven't really gotten to know each other in this meta. So I think the Shock have a better situation where they don't have to worry about, New York Excelsior knocking them down a peg. I mean, they have to basically beat the Spark and then, move on from not the Spark. Why am I drawing a blank? The Gladiators. They have to beat the Gladiators, and then they would probably face, Atlanta or the Spark at that point. Probably Atlanta. So they have to play more games, yes, but they play inferior talent to what the Titans play. And I'm not saying inferior by a lot. It's just there's a reason that the Titans and the NYXL are in the winners bracket. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think the benefit goes to the Shock, even though they have more games to play.
I would think I don't even know if they can necessarily think about the Titans at all yet, just because if you're only focusing on what's ahead of you, like you're not gonna be able to take care of the team in front of you.
Right.
And I just think
Bill
that.
Belichick.
Let me go get my hood. Let me get my sleeveless sweater out there somewhere.
So this is a completely random question. I want to ask this to Ed. Ed, how many people from open tryouts do you think Boston is going to sign for minimum contract?
3.
3.
3. Because I think they're going to trade away at least 4.
Okay.
I think Fusions is as good as gone. I think Color Hex is gone. Aim God's probably off the team, whether they trade him or he just doesn't re-up with the team. So you got those 3, and then you just got to get rid of 1 more. Like Fusions, like we've talked about this in the past. Boston is we're gonna grow the talent, then get rid of them, and make a profit off.
Well, and it's
I feel like Boston is just to come in and sign like an open division team, and I'll say that just for the meme.
Well, it's weird because like they just signed Mineral as their new head coach, and Mineral even then is not like a down in the trenches with his players kind of coach. He's more like, here's my grand strategy. That much.
He's a AAA coach.
Yeah,
like he's a AAA coach for a team of AAA players. Like
so,
I'm not saying they're all bad. It's just like you have some diamonds in the rough, and you have some complete crap.
Well, Ed, what I think they do. I do think a good chunk of the team is gone. I do think that Fusions is probably gone. Aim God is probably gone. I think same with I don't know. I think they'll get rid of Kellex just because it's time for Alamung to get like his couple of games in before they try and trade him away too. I think if there's one person they do keep, I think it is Color Hex. I think they would probably trade Blase instead.
Depends on the meta. If Doomfist is in the meta, somebody's gonna pay for Blase. Because Blase is probably top 3 in Doomfist in the league.
Not that you would know if they play, but
like it's one of those things. So yeah, know of the Boston Uprising right now. I'm pretty sure they just signed Antonio Brown. He signed a 2-way contract between the Patriots and the Uprising.
Well, like they also have some pretty decent players on their academy teams. Like their diva player Muffin or whatever, like almost took the Team Canada like off tank spot from Note. And then who else they have? Like what?
They also had one of the best DPS players on the Boston Uprising academy team and screwed the pooch on that one during the Valiant trade.
Yes,
I'm trying to blank on the name, but like he left the team after asking. Yep, and he left the team after that.
Well, and they have Punk too, who's another great off tank.
Pure Punk.
Thank you. He's also from New Zealand, so it would follow the same Boston narrative of just like snagging people from like who knows where. And World Cup hasn't even happened yet, so there's still probably like 2 or 3 players who are just going to sign from a tiny island out in the Pacific.
Right. Yeah, plus there's a gauntlet coming up. But getting back to our brackets based on the majority votes for Saturday with the lower round 2, we're looking at, in this case, I think the majority was pulling for Atlanta over the Spark. So they would be going up against the San Francisco Shock. With the winner of that going up against, based on majority, the New York Excelsior on Sunday for the lower finals. So I'm pretty sure we're all going to agree that we are expecting the Shock to beat whoever wins between the Reign and the Spark. So I don't think there's really too much to break down there, but what are your guys' thoughts on Shock versus the Excelsior for our predicted lower finals?
That's gonna be a good one. I want the Shock to win. Because I want the Shock versus Titans again, because they have not disappointed ever in the playoffs. Like their stage 1 and stage 2,
unless it's Rialto,
the championship matches have been some of the best matches we've seen this season. I want that again, and I think the people of Philadelphia want that. Like they want that close matchup that's going to come down to the wire.
That's how they do it in
Shock
Philly.
And Titans are going to do it. No, well, and then they throw stuff at Santa.
That, and they also decide to pick up their ball and go to Korea and then don't make the gauntlet.
Wah, wah.
Ed's allowed to point and laugh at them just like he said he would. So
suck it, EU. I know that's not what we were talking about, but suck it, EU.
I'm pretty confident EU is going to go 0-2 in the gauntlet too, but we'll have more on that on other shows later when we get closer to October.
I do
One
think
thing
that
I will point out, and I think you talked about it yesterday. One thing about the Atlanta Reign, now that Gator's played, he's not eligible to play in the gauntlet. Right. So Gator is out of the gauntlet. So the main tank. So what are they going to do? Sugar Free can't play everything.
I mean, he can, just not at the same time.
He doesn't have enough hands.
Sugar free multi boxes.
They're gonna sub in Sugar Dad.
Sugar Dad and Sugars. See, there you go.
Sign him to a 1-night deal. Well, actually, it'd be a 2-night deal. It would be a 2-night deal because it's all played in the weekend.
If they didn't do that during the Kit Kat weekend and had them sponsor sugar-free Kit Kats, then I don't know what.
You could see them maybe like throw, because I haven't seen if they've played that meta yet. You could probably see Hawk on the Sigma, and then literally just whoever's the least of a liability on Orisa.
Because that's really what you have to do is, like, I talked about this last week on Heroes Never Die. Orisa is the least skilled main tank in the game.
Stop.
Really?
No, I'm not fighting you at all.
Yeah, so like you can, and that's what you're seeing is you're gonna be like, okay, let's just throw all you gotta do is throw your shield out, suck in so you can get accretion or whatever, and then occasionally drop bongos and then just keep firing. That's all you gotta do. And you can really just put in anyone at that point. It's kind of like Brig. Like there are definitely higher end. There's definitely higher end Brigs, but like
because you have
between
Haxel,
high end
and then you have EQO,
high end, and then the rest, it's smaller than like Widowmakers, and so on and so forth. There's like the Haxel on Brigette, and there's a giant clump of everyone else, and then EQO, and then. You know, you could really throw anyone in there, and that's what you can kind of do with Orisa.
So get back to Shock versus New York.
What?
When you look at it, I think I love this storyline of San Francisco really becoming like the new Titan of, I mean, not Vancouver, the new like juggernaut of the league, kind of the new representative of like an Overwatch League created team.
Wait, Juggernaut from X-Men or the Juggernaut from Deadpool 2?
The one from the 90s cartoon.
Okay, all right. Just needed some clarification. There's a lot of Juggernauts out there.
The X3 Juggernaut.
Okay, all right. Continue.
No, I love this storyline of San Francisco being this team full of really young talent that is like an Overwatch League team. Like Vancouver is great. Vancouver is also like a team from like Apex in Korea, like that has made their way eventually over here. Not Apex, I know contenders, but you know what I mean. Like same with New York. New York is a team that's like been around a while. For the most part, they have like a couple players that they've promoted up to the main roster, and is now here in the finals or in the playoffs. So you have a really marketable team of San Francisco. I really want them to take it. I don't know though. I don't know if I think I don't feel good about Striker right now. Not that Striker's bad, but if we're gonna go about like the weakest link in the chain, I don't know how good Striker is, but on the same time, I don't know how good Sabiobi is across from him.
Well, SBB has been pretty clutch, but you know. When you look at the Shock, this has been a team that's been in every finals throughout the season. It would feel kind of weird for them not to punch their ticket to Philadelphia. But you know, I'm expecting New York to beat Vancouver prior in the week, so that would set up Titans versus Shock in the lower finals, and I would be absolutely gutted if that actually comes to fruition, just because like. Both of those teams have been at the forefront throughout the entirety of the season, but
but if New York makes it, you get them finally getting to the top of the mountain,
right?
Instead of just always getting halfway there and then falling apart. Like there's a worthy narrative for almost any team in here.
Yeah, so you basically have the team that has won in the past. You have the team that's kind of always lingered, which would be New York in this case, since, I mean, let's be real, LW didn't really do a whole lot when they were around as a team. And then you have the Shock, who are really like the young bloods, who have just been kind of bringing their own way of doing things throughout the entirety of the season, and they don't play the meta like anyone else, and that's been persistent throughout the entirety of this season. So, you know, it's weird seeing how you have other teams that have kind of put themselves in that position, in regards to adapting to the meta in their own way, but the Shock have always been the one that have done it the best. It's just a matter of, you know, when you look at all these coaching staffs, like, I don't want to say, like, you have more doubts with New York on that front, but all of them do have strong coaching staffs. But for me, I want to see the Shock and Vancouver, but, you know, we're probably going to get in the lower finals, if not that, the grand finals. But for me, I'm still going to pull for the Titans to win it all.
You could say you don't have any doubts about New York, but I think me and Ed have doubts about New York.
It'll be interesting, and you know, it'll be great when, you know, New York just ends up winning it all, and then you guys both just don't have anything to say.
Can we flood SBB's chat with "please don't retire" tweets after he just says that I'm upset for I'm bummed we didn't win the game?
Absolutely. Well, we'll see if they show the camera in his face and make him cry.
Well, that's the whole thing.
And
is
then
like
he has a drunk stream later on, and then shakes his fist at his teammates not playing better.
Like that was the whole thing. Was like everyone tried to make this thing like, oh, I can't believe they made them do that interview. It's like no, like they asked the team for sure. They asked the players. Jay Honk's 28. If he didn't want to be there, he'd walk out.
Right.
I understand there's like there is this perception of like you owe your fans something and you owe them after a loss. But like that's sports. That's how it is. You interview the losing player right after because you get to see that fresh emotion as it's happening.
Exactly. Like in the Super Bowl, they interviewed the losing team, honestly, so it gives the other team time to set up to celebrate. Like, so you can get everything in line and, you know, get people organized. I have zero problem with them interviewing SBB or any of the losers after any of these matches. I think
he's not a loser yet. He's not a loser yet.
After a loss, the losing team after a loss, and yeah, it created all sorts of controversy. Like the whole
really.
Is Jay Hong the most overrated player?
No.
Well, that was the way that they phrased it was he was the biggest bust in the Overwatch League. Was the way that it was phrased.
All right. Biggest bust.
That's what he himself has said. That's not like Monty or someone trying to put that tag on. It's like he's like, I'm sorry, I'm the biggest bust. I'm like, they were right. I'm the biggest bust in the Overwatch League.
Right. I'm just saying that was like the narrative, though. Essentially.
Yeah. But like, and here's the thing: everyone's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. Someone has to be.
XQC would like a word.
XQC what? There's a difference between a bust and getting kicked out of the league.
Is Ryan Leaf a bust?
Ryan Leaf wasn't kicked out of the league. Nobody re-signed him. He just wasn't. He wasn't kicked out of the league.
At the end of the day, it all boils down to the fact that if you're sold, you're the only squad out of Korea. Like, that's their national roster, essentially. Yes, we have other Korean teams, but, you know, when you look at teams like New York and you look at someone like Seoul, these are, without question, the two teams who have had the most pressure put on them. And I would say, in Seoul's case, it's to a greater extent, regardless of, kind of like, you know, New York's past history in the playoffs. But if you're Seoul with, you know, geolocation coming with them traveling home and away, you have to start thinking that Seoul is gonna be put in a position where they're gonna have a lot of power moves coming. People are going to want to play near their home.
Mm-hmm.
And Seoul's just going to honestly become like this super team. And I don't know if it's going to be next year or a couple of years down the line, but if you're Seoul, like, I don't think they have anything to be ashamed about based on their performance. They definitely improved over how they did in the inaugural season. Yes, they made the playoffs. Yes, it was off second chances, and, you know, you can meme that all you want. But they've had stuff to build off of, and at this point, I would say, like, the biggest question mark for them revolves around their DPS play. So if I were them, you know, there's,
Sign Carpe.
There's this tournament coming up in October, where, you know, they're gonna send all the scouts. And, you know, there's 2 Korean teams that are looking pretty good. They happen to meet in the contenders finals.
So Totem, I have a possible scenario just to make you upset.
They should just sign Sparkle.
So what happens? What happens if instead of a Chicago team, we get one more Korean team? It's the Busan team. They straight up sign all of Runaway's current roster and officially are a Busan Runaway team. You have 3 dads you have to pick from.
Well, see, here's the thing. Not all of them are eligible.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to double check on that. But
they clone Mag 9 times.
I would be so conflicted at that point.
Like, you're being catered to, and at the same time, you're not being catered to.
Oh, no. At that point, they can go to hell.
Mm-hmm.
No Chicago team. Every new team that isn't Chicago introduced can go to hell. And I will never cheer for them, regardless
of if they have Sparkle or not. But anyways, so
they could have sugar-free, and I would not cheer for them.
Because he's going to Chicago when that time comes. So just as an update, guys, yes, the season is winding down for the Overwatch League. So just as an update on the podcast run for this particular show, you know, this is kind of a seasonal thing because, you know, there's no fantasy going on outside of the Overwatch League. So what we're going to plan on doing is we're going to be running throughout the playoffs. So we're kind of going to do like a recap of the fantasy season across the board with all of our hosts. So kind of like a season in review type episode. You know, we'll talk about our experience this year and what we would like to see in regards to fantasy OWL for the 2020 season. And of course, we'll have our like grand finals primer episode. I don't know if we'll kind of do like more of a roundtable between the network hosts or if we'll kind of do our own separate themes from a show to show basis. But that's our plan. We'll have like a couple more shows before we wind down and take a bit of a hiatus until, you know, the new year. But, you know, there are still other events that will be going on. Obviously, like the Gauntlet, which I mentioned in October. We got the World Cup coming up. And, of course, you know, we got BlizzCon. So there's some exciting stuff. But for the majority of the OWL stuff, that will be covered on our other network shows. So both on Overwatch League Network as well as Heroes Never Die.
Or push the point.
Or, yes, the other Chicago OWL podcast, Push the Point.
What?
The Chicago OWL podcast number 2.
The Chicago OWL /
That's why I said
Labasco's classic WoW career podcast.
Yeah. Or can we call them Chicago Podcast B? It's either B or 2.
We're just going to change our name to Chicago and...
No. Chicago is not good.
That's like on par with the Toronto Rontos.
Yeah, no, and also...
Or the Toe Sports.
You live in Southern California.
Labasco is in...
We have 2 hosts within 2 hours of Chicago.
Ed, I don't know if you've ever listened to my show. Do you
host
think
around Chicago.
I don't know if you ever listened to the show. Do you think I'm the one bringing up the Chicago stuff? It's never me.
No. I know it's not you, but you can't defend it as in a Chicago OWL podcast when you live in Southern California. No.
I mean, it's a fair point.
It is
does not work that way.
But with that being said, we are going to close it out for tonight. So if you guys want to help us out, of course, we're always looking for review over on iTunes. Let us know how we're doing, what you'd like to see for the next season of podcast episodes.
I haven't heard one complaint about me through iTunes for this show.
That's because
That's
we have
actually
a much
surprising.
smaller window.
I still expected at least a couple complaints about me. I don't know. I've kind of come to expect it. Ramses hasn't even submitted one on his burner account.
Mm-hmm.
LOL, Ed sucks.
The other two hosts are great, but Ed's terrible. 1 star.
Yeah, 1 star.
Only for you, though.
Yes.
So outside of that, guys, we do have our podcast directory, which is Overwatch Recall, where you can find a listing of Overwatch, Overwatch League, Path to Pro, Fantasy OWL podcasts on our website. And then every Sunday, and sometimes on Mondays, depending on the week, we do the weekly recall, which has the episodic listen from all the prior week's episodes on our website, as well as Twitter at OW Recall. Now, if you would like to support our podcast network, you can do so a couple of different ways. We do stream pretty regularly over on Twitch, and it is September, so we got half-off subs, all of that good stuff. But we do appreciate anyone throwing, money through subs that way, or using Twitch Prime subs, which don't cost you anything. And then we also have our Patreon at patreon.com/OWL Network. There we have tiers starting at just $1 a month, so you too can join the likes of our Master and above patrons, Blazabob, Brendan, Owl, and then, our 2 musical patrons, Jay-Z and Kesha, which would have been far better choices for the NFL pregame stuff, by the way, in helping our network grow.
You mean Meek Mill and, what's her name? God, I can't even remember her name.
Is it Megan Trainor?
Megan Trainor and Meek Mill.
Man, how many NFL fans were like, yes, Megan Trainor?
Well, all right, so the reason they had those 2 is because when Jay-Z and the NFL actually signed, like, a deal together,
Mm-hmm.
Megan Trainor and Meek Mill were added as, like representatives to bring equality. Like, to work on, like, equality to the NFL.
Oh, with good music? Like the label? That's Jay-Z's label, so.
Yeah, I'm sure. I wouldn't call Megan Trainor good music, but,
GOOD is, yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. But that's the reason that they were on. They both were horrible.
Well, because Meek Mill's not even from Chicago.
No, and Meek Mill was fine, except like the majority of the song he sang was bleeped out. So it's like, oh,
that's
this
like
is
most rap music nowadays. But anyways, Ed, I'm sure you have some random thought of the week. So what's it gonna
I do.
This time?
I'll get to that after the contacts. So, all right, you can contact the show through contact@owlnshow.com through email. We are on Twitter, and that's at OWL by the numbers. We do have a website, and that's at www.owlnshow.com. And then we do have a YouTube, and that's youtube.com/Overwatch League Network. Go over there and catch Spider released a deep dive into Sigma that he lied to us about the time of. And multiple times, so he basically failed at life. And then we are over on Discord, and that's at discord.me/OWLnshow. So come over there, chit chat with us. We are streaming presently live on Twitch at twitch.tv/OWLnshow. We are Twitch affiliates, so help support the show by subscribing to our channel and earn our network emoticon during September, and use that Amazon Prime. Get that emoticon. So yeah, like Tom said, we do stream pretty regularly. Just follow us on Discord, all that fun stuff, and you'll be able to hear all of that. We do have the Patreon, like Totem had said, at patreon.com/OWL Network. So come over there if you want to help the network out even further. And then everyone's favorite, random question of the day. Oh God, Ramses, you look like you want to say something before I ask.
I was go for it.
All right. Is it rude if a deaf person to talk signs with their mouth full? Because it's rude for us to talk with our mouth full, but they're signing. Is it still rude?
No.
I got nothing.
You got nothing?
So.
All right, fine. I'll ask a different one. All right, hold on. I have a list. If
He has
ghosts,
a list.
I have a list. If ghosts can walk through walls and glide downstairs, why don't they fall through the floor? If you can walk through a wall, you can't walk on stairs. You'd fall through.
They're a semi-permeable matter, like so. It's energy. It's like a lot. It's Newton's thermodynamics. You know, like energy
You
never
can
is
walk through a
destroyed.
flipping wall.
It can phase through the wall, but it also can take a semi-solid form in order to like expand. It's a ball of energy, so it's the
Are you
energy
calling
expanding.
ghosts the Flash?
Oh, okay. So
No.
here's my answer to this. So this is a classic case of clipping, just like in Doom. Like when you use the ID clip cheat code, you go through walls and doorways. You don't fall through the damn floor.
Well, it's
Why
like
not?
well, because the way ghosts are. If Zach Bagans from Ghost Adventures has taught me anything and has roided out Ed Hardy shirt glory, it's that the prevailing theory is that ghosts are just beings of energy and that they don't necessarily have a one form, but they're more just like an energy mass that can inflict action upon other things, like opening a door, like knocking on something,
Okay,
like
so
walking and making footsteps.
let's say a ghost trips and falls. Are they falling through the stairs then?
I haven't seen it. I couldn't tell you.
Well, all right. First off, I haven't seen a thing. So you've seen ghosts before? You just haven't seen them trip?
I haven't seen that. That never happened on Ghost Adventures, okay?
Ah, you're killing me, Ramses. No, if ghosts can walk through walls and walk through people, they can't walk downstairs. They would fall through. Pure science right there.
But anyways,
No, not but anyways. I only have a few of these left this year.
you have 2 other shows you could do them on.
Why aren't eyebrows considered facial hair?
I didn't know that he was going to keep going. But anyways, you can find me over on Twitter at Totally Drunk CTR. Ramses, where can they get a hold of you at?
You can find me on Twitter at Ramses_OW, and you can find my show Push the Point that I do every week with Lobosco at PushPointPod. We are week 2 in our quest to contact Lee Zeven of the Houston Outlaws. I told Ed about this last week. Did you happen to see Lee Zeven's tweets last week about funding for the Outlaws?
No.
So Lee Zeven direct tweeted at The Rock, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos saying, "I'm buying 2 esports organizations, and I'm looking to get some funds together. This would be a strategic investment opportunity. You should come be a part of it. Let me know. Here's my email." And we thought, we're people we're guys of the same quality as The Rock, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. So
I'm basically on the same level.
So we are sending him an email and we're tweeting at him and just seeing if anything happens. And then maybe a year and a half from now, when he looks at his Twitter again, we'll get a response.
First off, how is that any less stupid than my ghost talk?
By
By the way, you can find me on Twitter
decide
at Edinar Overwatch. That's EDANAR Overwatch.
And for more ramblings, be sure to come back tomorrow night for our next episode of Heroes Never Die. But you've been listening to OWL by the Numbers. I've been your host, Totally Drunk, joined as always by my co-hosts Edinar and Ramses, and we hope to see you guys back tomorrow. Enjoy the playoffs and take care.
Have a good one.
Later.